Welcome back to another episode of Elevator Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. I am the Uncle Junior, and with me today are my co-hosts, ladies and gentlemen, at the top, Mr. Victor Vizion, Mr. Accountable Masculinity himself. Right beside him with the blue shirt on, eating his peanuts, is Mr. Antoine, the other artist, Christopher. Down at the bottom, making all that noise, ladies and gentlemen, is across the table with Christopher. It might not be him, it's probably Antoine anyway. Uh, and ladies and gentlemen, the man in the red, the man of many hats, poor man's Dr. Phil. Gentlemen, how y'all doing today?
I'm well. I'm well.
Bless, bless.
Who was
That,
that
that
making
was
noise
like
anyway? I
total
bet that was
chaos
Antoine.
where you just talk right through that while whoever that was falling down the steps, you know what I'm saying, was
Was
telling
it
me.
Chris? I thought it was Antoine, really.
It wasn't me. I didn't know that. I'm like, man, really?
I didn't know what you was talking about.
No, it might have just been some background, some feedback. Who knows where it's from, man? Hey, y'all see Coach not here, but he already texted me, said he coming in shortly. He got some things going on. So but other than that, man, I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate everybody who's here watching at home, whether or not you are on the Uncle Junior Network, whether or not you on Code Talk YouTube, across the table with Chris, whichever platform you're on. I appreciate you stopping by this evening with us to hear what thus saith poor man Dr. Phil this evening.
Man, I'm just appreciative of being on with you guys, so I can soak in the masculine energy that makes us, just strive for productivity.
I like that, man. I was looking forward to today too, man. Not even because of the topic, but just um been doing reading a couple of different books, and one of the books that I was reading was emphasizing the importance of hanging out with men and feeding off of each other and gaining energy from each other and supporting each other in our full masculinity and just being open and honest and upfront and holding each other accountable about certain things. So I think that that's one of the things that this platform does at some point. I think that there is a sense of accountability when it comes here because I try to make sure that I'm up here on time every week, different things like that. I'm trying to make sure that I at least got my shirt on and brush the crumbs off my beard and stuff like that. So, but again, man, I do appreciate everybody in the chat, everybody at home, and all you gentlemen for being here this evening. I really do. Go ahead, Vic. What you have to say?
Oh no, I was just listening, man. I'm over here interacting with some people. The chat is starting to get some activity. So just wanted to say what's up.
Yeah.
Just
And just to let everybody know, we are talking about respect and romantic relationships. All of us up here are heterosexual males, and so we will be speaking from that aspect, from that point of view, um, just to set the baseline for the conversation. So, and we all up here come from different point of views, different aspects, different experiences, different perspectives. So, what you're going to listen to while you are tuning in is a bunch of different men with varied experiences when it comes to romantic relationships with women. And it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. One of the things I want to just start by going around the platform and just kind of describe, a little background about your romantic history and your current romantic history. And I'll start to kind of set the tone or kind of set the table for the rest of the conversation. So, I'm 47 years old. I'm married right now. And I was married previously for 19 years. We got divorced. I have been with my current partner and my current wife for the last over 8 years, and we have been married. In July will be 1 year. Um, so that's pretty much the extent. I have had, situationships and different things like that, but I haven't had a lot of small relationships. Most of my relationships have been long term. I'm 47. You look at 19 and 8, it don't leave a lot of room for anything else. So
yeah. So I'm 44. Been married 3 times. I was married in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't have any kids. Um, I had um, a child that was produced out of my first marriage that was later found out not to be mine. So I'm currently I've been in a long-term relationship the last 3 years. It's been pretty healthy, and I plan to get married again at some point, but right now just looking for like the consistency and the whole uh, the dating experience energy with the partner that I have, and we keep that funky. So
Um,
Antoine, the world wants to know Antoine's situation.
let's see. I was in a long-term relationship.
yeah,
I was in a long-term relationship about 5 years ago. Been playing the field ever since. I'm married-minded now. Um, I'm looking for the one, if there is such a thing. But anyways, looking for the one, and yeah, I'm in the field dating. I do a lot of dating, and I'm enjoying it. Um, no joke, I am enjoying it. But let's not get mistaken. I don't sleep with every girl I meet. I actually meet quality women. I'm looking for marriage-minded women. I'm not looking for a hookup. Not looking for any animosity. I'm looking for a married-minded woman that wants kids. That would be the only reason I would get together with a woman. That's my mind right now.
Well, I guess for me, when I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall. No, I'm just kidding. But y'all, I gotta lighten it up. But because y'all had it sounded like it was like a 2-minute speed dating thing or something. I think I've been married a few times. I'm on my third marriage. I got married early because I wanted to get my children out of Detroit, and we both knew what it was. And then my second marriage didn't end well, but that's one of my best friends now, and I've been married now for 15 years, and she putting up with me still, and I'm still learning me. I'm still learning her. I'm still learning how to become the husband that she needs, not what I think I should be. And I'm I'm happy where I am. I'm good.
You muted.
Oh, 42, never been married, don't have any children. I am dating someone, but it's weird. It's like we're pursuing things in our own individual lives, but we're finding ways to come together, which is dope to me. So, yeah, that would be it.
Hey, I like it then. If you like it, I love it, man. Again, man, thank you to everybody who's tuning in at home on the different platforms and stuff like that. So, with that being said, man, we're going to jump right into it. So, the first thing we're going to do tonight is we're going to describe the topic. So, what we're going to start off with is just describing what respect is to us in a romantic relationship. So, what does respect mean in the context of a romantic relationship?
I think it's just mutual cooperation, and respecting people's boundaries that are in a relationship. I think respect is supposed to create a good atmosphere so you can enjoy the relationship. And I think without it, you just going through the motions. I think you're just walking on eggshells without it.
So I look at it. Go ahead, Antoine.
No, I was just gonna say, as far as respect in a relationship, that's like the number one thing I look for. I put it high on the list. Not only respect for me, but respect for oneself. I put that high on the list. I don't even think that it wouldn't even be a relationship if I would put you in a different category if there wasn't respect involved.
And I think it has to do with honesty and proper communication, because if we can come to an agreement on what we we say our relationship entails, then what nobody else has to say about it matters. And if you can respect the boundaries and I can respect the boundaries, then we have a common bond, and you know that's where we can grow.
I guess this is my new way of thinking about it. To me, respecting a romantic relationship means basically don't do anything that would make us look bad. Because I'm not going to do anything that makes us look bad. Because if we're in a romantic relationship, then we represent each other. It's like we represent the union of us. It's like we can't you can't think individually when you're in a union. You have to think about the union. So to me, that would be what I view as respect. You understand what I'm saying? That would be where I would start.
I like that. Um, I like. I think that respect is also control. What I mean by that is self control. I think respect first starts with yourself. I think, first of all, in any relationship, especially a romantic relationship, you have to have a certain amount of respect for yourself. There are certain things that you should allow, and certain things that are going to be allowed, and certain things that are not going to be allowed. You know what I mean? And if you have a certain amount of respect for yourself, then you have a certain amount of control over your mouth, over your body, over other different things in the relationship. So if first you respect yourself and then you have self control over yourself, I think that what'll happen is that you will in turn have a great respect for the overall relationship. And if you, like Coach has said many times, the relationship is what comes first. So if you respect yourself, you know what I mean? You respect the relationship. And I know I'm just talking about respect, respect, respect. But however, I think that that's where it starts at. Is first the respect in a relationship first starts with the respect that you have for yourself.
Yeah. So yours sound more like discipline.
In
Yeah.
in a sense, yes. In a sense, yes. If I have a certain amount of respect for Roland, I have to have a certain amount of discipline in order not to come up here and say something negative or say something disrespectful to you. So yes, in a sense, that is me having to maintain a certain level of discipline in order to be able to respect you as a person. And the same thing goes in a romantic relationship. You know what I mean? I have to respect the
Okay.
person. Go ahead, Vic.
Okay. So can I
Yeah.
ask? Can I ask a
Go ahead.
question real quick? So is
Yeah,
this one of those times where discipline and self control are synonymous? Because you have to have a certain level of self control to do that as well.
I I don't think that's a bad answer, a bad way of looking at it, because I look at it like when you break down relationships in general, you interact with like-minded people, and those like-minded people that interact with each other, they have a certain behavior that goes along with whatever activity that they're engaged in, right? So when the word discipline was mentioned, I've been writing about sexual discipline. You know what I'm saying? Just in general, it's certain things that go along with certain behavior, right? Sexually undisciplined people do a lot of the same things because they're in the same mix with each other. They have to reciprocate each other. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody's a polar opposite where they actually are attracted to one another, because behaviors bring the opposite of each other because they have to have something to play off of, right? So if you're dealing with somebody that's ultra combative and they stay in a fight, that means they always dealing with people that they can easily target, right? So when you start breaking down like discipline in a relationship, you're either sexually disciplined or you're not. You know what I'm saying? Because in a relationship, each individual has a level of sexual motivation, but the sexual discipline keeps them in or out of trouble. When it comes down to like if fidelity is an issue, because there's a lot of different things that have to take place in order for you to step out of the bounds of your relationship to do something extra that might cause a rift in it. So sexual discipline is a way to break down who you choose. That not the criteria that we look at when you decide who is suitable to be, who's worthy of commitment. So I think sexual discipline factors into that too.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming in hot all the way from Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. The Mindset Coach himself, Mr. Dwayne Dwyer. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing
I'm,
today,
I'm, I'm a
Coach?
little, I'm good, brother. I'm a little further north right now. I'm in South Carolina.
My
Oh, there
credit
he
score
is.
went up 70 points when he came online. Coach
Hey,
over there
Hey,
welcome,
looking
man,
at good credit.
welcome.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. Good to be here, gentlemen. Good to be
Yeah,
here.
man, good to see you, Coach. You want to add to? You said you was coming in hot. So, what does respect mean in the context of a romantic relationship, um, according to the mindset
Yeah,
coach?
yeah. So I apologize. I missed what everybody else said. So if I say something that somebody else already said, please forgive me. Um, First and foremost, I would say that it looks no different than the respect that you have for any other relationship. I would say when it comes down to respect, respect is respect. And when we understand that what we're respecting is the thing that we agreed to in the beginning. So if we're talking about a relationship, what type of conversation that we have, what type of agreement do we have between the two people? It's just like the agreement that all of us have on this panel, right? This is a relationship. It's just not a romantic relationship, but it's a relationship. Therefore, because of the relationship that we have a certain level of respect. There are certain things that we will and will not do. Vic brought up the concept just now of sexual discipline. You know, when it comes down to a romantic relationship, absolutely, there is a degree of sexual discipline that exists inside the relationship and outside the relationship. So I think that's important to understand. So I think when it comes down to respect, we have to look at what it means within the confines of the thing that we're respecting and what does it mean outside the thing as well. There's a degree of protection that exists when it comes down to these romantic relationships. And you guys know full well what I'm talking about. You will defend the honor of the relationship in its entirety. Even when it comes down to the relationship that we have on this panel, I will defend every man on this relationship. But by that same token, if you're wrong, I'm that person to say, hey, you're wrong. And I will be straightforward and honest with it. I don't mean no harm by it. Don't take offense to it. If we say we are who we are, then we have the ability to actually exercise candid conversation and transparency within the scope of that conversation. So it's not just it's first and foremost understand and respect. What is the thing that you're respecting? What does respect inside the thing look like, and what does respect outside the thing look like?
And I just want to I just want to add that I think in a relationship, respect should come easily. It's not something you struggle for. It's not something you should be struggling with, right? Because if you're in a relationship with her, obviously there's feelings and all that other stuff behind it. But respect shouldn't come as a struggle. Like I'm going out of my way to respect you. You're going out of your way to respect me. That should be something that's understood.
I 100% understand you, Antoine. I also understand that people come from different backgrounds and people come from um, what is called respect in one culture or one setting is not respect in another setting and vice versa. So I think that sometimes we can maybe start um, a conversation with someone or a romantic relationship with someone only to find out later on that something is being done in a relationship that's considered disrespectful to us.
Right.
However, it may just be a person's maybe the way they are, their upbringing, or just what the way they were taught, if that makes sense.
Culture.
Well, the initial word respect is across the board, right? So
Yeah.
yes, people may do things culturally. Well, there's a definition for respect. I don't know how many definitions there are. I know a definition of respect. So if you guys are saying there's multiple definitions, please enlighten me.
Well, I will say this. So, and this is, I live in a little small town outside of Raleigh. Okay, and here people don't a lot of people speak to you and they don't curse a lot in school. Well,
Right.
we have some parents, some new parents who have coming in from New York, and different things like this. And we'll be sitting in there in meetings with the principal and everybody, and they'll drop F-bombs like it ain't nothing. Well, to a lot of people down in the South, that's considered disrespectful. But
Right.
in North, that's okay. And I know we're talking about a romantic relationship, but I was just trying to give you an example of just how people can be different from different cultures, and what may be respectful in one culture is disrespectful in another culture or in a different region of the country.
Right.
I got a different example.
Go ahead.
When I first took my wife home to New York, I was raised by a bunch of women, and they cater to men. That's what they do. They make sure like you're gonna get your plate brought to you and all that other stuff. So when my wife comes along, they're looking at her like, oh, food has been cooked. They looking like, okay, let's see if she gonna make his plate. Now me knowing my wife's not necessarily comfortable right now. I know she would usually do it, but to compensate for that, I say, okay, now go ahead, sit down. I make the plates until she gets comfortable with the environment. Then she can flourish and do the things that she normally does. And I would, if I had to, I would explain that to the women in my life. Hey, she knows what she's supposed to do, but I'm trying to make her comfortable because she doesn't know you guys yet. Now it's not even a given. Hey, what you want? And she does her role.
So,
Coach, you're getting ready to see you rubbing your hands.
but no, I kind of wanted to chime in because I agree with the cultural aspect of it, and I also agree with the different geographical aspects of it. But I want to make sure that we do not leave out. Sure, I agree with Antoine. Words mean things, but you also need to understand that there's a certain level of understanding that certain people have about a thing versus another, and that's not geographically, that's not
Wait a
culturally.
minute, what's the,
That is
wait, the definition is different?
hold on, guys. Let me finish.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
that's not geographically, that's not culturally, that's just from person to person. So what you have to understand, we all can read the same paragraph and come up with different perspectives from that paragraph, and that paragraph will be that the perspective that you have from that paragraph will come from a couple of different things: your educational background, your experiences, your ability to relate to that thing, so forth and so on. So when you look at it from that perspective, what you have to understand is that it's not just the words, it is the understanding of the words.
Well,
That's why
wait. Okay, but if somebody reads respect and they read the definition of respect, if you're an idiot and you don't understand it, you'd go to somebody that get educated on it. But
yeah,
the
great point.
definition,
Go back and listen to what
not that the definition of respect is.
what you're saying has no bearing on
Yeah.
anything.
Let him finish. He's trying to tell you something. Mute your mic.
I'm just no. Don't tell me to mute my mic. I do what I want, but I'm just saying if you're going to do it, I'm just talking about the definition of respect. That's all I said.
So again, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and say exactly what I said again, just so that you can hear me. We all understand that words mean things. I got that part. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the understanding of the word. You can take a thing, case in point, and Roland, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about because we talk about it every weekend when it comes to the Bible. You can read certain aspects of a word, and one person will get something from that word as opposed to somebody else getting something from that word. And that kind of goes back to what Roland talked about his wife just now. What she knew as respect growing up is one thing. Even though the definition may say something, there are certain parameters that go into it when you look at applying that word to different aspects and different levels of your life. So the understanding isn't crystal clear just because the definition is.
No, the understanding of respect is respect. How you used to display it, how you used to execute it, how you used to listen to it, how you used to interpret it is on you. But the definition of respect is universal. How you go about acting it, how you go about presenting it in different cultures. I'm agreeing. Some things in some cultures are not the same in other cultures. But the definition of respect, there's only one. You just have to, and words, yes, words, people interpret words differently. Like my French is different from the French in Paris. So I have to explain my words a little differently because the word is different. The meaning may be different. But you could talk to somebody in Spanish and say this word in Mexican Spanish and going to go to Spain and it's different. I'm just saying, I'm talking about the definition of respect. How you use it is different. That's all I'm saying.
even when you have definitions, when you look at a definition, you don't have just one definition. You have breakdowns of said definition to explain. In this instance, it means this,
Right.
versus over here, it means that. And when you words simply have meaning because we have put the meanings to the word.
Right.
So
Okay.
words really don't have meaning. They, whatever we want them to mean.
Then it's best to define what respect you guys are talking about. Which one are you talking about if you want to break it down a thing? Because I'm talking about general respect. That's what I'm going by. That's all I'm saying. General respect. However you want to compartmentalize it and go around it and make it sound bigger than it is. I'm talking about flat ass respect for somebody and what they do.
Just so you know, you really didn't say anything different than what I said. I just want to make sure I point that out.
I just got to the steak. I just bypassed the appetizer and got to the steak. That's all I did. That's all I did.
Potato. Sure.
Yeah. You guys are making things so complicated. Jesus Christmas. That's just respect.
Hey, well, how about this then? If we can look at that, how do we recognize when respect is lacking in a relationship? So how do we recognize when, because sometimes people don't see it, or people may not even know that they're being disrespected. I've heard, sometimes people get information and they like, oh snap, I've been being disrespected this entire time and not even known it. So how do we recognize when respect is lacking in a relationship?
A lot of talking under your breath, being short, being anxious, you know what I'm saying? Passive aggressive. What else? Argumentative, interrupting.
For no reason though.
For no reason.
No
you know
reason.
What I'm saying? Just to do it. In agreement and loud for no reason.
I feel attacked.
Yeah, no tact. No tact.
I am so glad I cut my meeting short to be here. This is awesome.
I'm going right to it.
I think those are kind of petty. I like being petty. I ain't gonna lie, but those are
petty.
Those are
nothing cute about being petty.
But I think those are petty.
It's entertaining though.
I think it's
if we're talking about disrespect, is talking under your breath, mumbling, and all that other stuff, that's petty. I look at it as you crossing a boundary that we agreed on.
I think it's feminine. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, like everybody's got a different picture of it. The same as Coach was saying before. Somebody might say it's petty. Some people might say it's not that big of a deal. I think it's feminine. Somebody might hear me say that and then they feel like they're being disrespected. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got a different view, as Coach was saying earlier.
But we're talking about in a relationship, how would you define disrespect, right?
Disrespect in a relationship, respect is how you feel with the person talking to you. I mean, if
I don't think it's how you feel.
No, it's hold on, just to make sure. Hold on, real quick, Antoine, just to make sure that we clear what the question is. How do we recognize when respect is lacking in a relationship?
When the other party made a clear and apparent choice to push a boundary that you specifically stated that you didn't want pushed.
Yes.
You've already had the conversation and they made the choice to do it. That's when you know you're not respected in the relationship.
What if you haven't had the conversation? Because you can't
then a conversation
have every
takes
single
place.
Conversation before. Actually, hold up, pause. Let me mute my mic. Coach, what you got, brother?
I just got a question about the question first. I want to make sure I'm understanding, because when I see lacking, I mean totally not. To me, I think that means totally not present. So is it absent of respect, or is it an intentional disregard of respect?
I think both. I think it's okay to talk about when it's intentional, and I think it's okay to talk about when it's not intentional. Something that they just may not be aware of. So I think it's okay to talk about both.
Okay, we can do
Because
that.
I
just
don't
want to make
always
sure which one
think
we're talking about right now.
Yeah, because I don't always think that it's intentional. I think sometimes it could just be something someone just oblivious about.
Either way, you
Agreed.
still got to have a conversation about it.
You do,
Hey,
but also
agreed.
being in long-term relationships, I've learned that you can't have every single conversation about every single situation before you get married. There are going to be some things that come up. I mean, if your values and different things and strengths or whatever are aligned, they're going to be minimum. But however, we are two different people, and every single situation don't come up. Like I didn't have a conversation with my ex-wife about social media on cell phones and internet. There was none at that time. You see what I'm saying? So as the relationships evolve, sometimes new information comes up, and sometimes we can sometimes be disrespectful sometimes and just not know it. So like I said, back to coach's question, I think it's okay to talk about either one. I just think
But
that if someone's going to talk about it, state which
but
side of the fence you're on.
I'm I'm on I'm on the same side you're on, but from a different perspective. I understand that new things come up, things that
Hmm.
didn't happen before you were married,
Hmm.
but you still have to have the conversation.
You
Either way
do.
it goes. I understand that you might not be able to have every conversation all the time about every little thing before you get married because you're not around each other like that. And it's kind of an impossibility. But as the years go by and you start to see things, or she starts to see things, and you feel as if you're being disrespected while she's doing those things, or she feels she's being respected by you doing these things, you sit down and have a conversation. Hey, this is what it is. This is how I feel. How are we going to work this out? If after that conversation, you still do that thing that we discussed, then it's a problem. That's when it's disrespectful because we talked about this. Even though it's new, we still talked about this. And you still did it anyway, like I ain't shit. Okay, we're going to have another conversation and it's not going to be too nice. And it might lead with you being single because you're making a blatant choice to disrespect me. And I didn't take this covenant under God for you to disrespect me. It is not your job to make me miserable. It's not.
So let me get this straight. We're asking about. I want to make sure I get on this. Maybe I'm understanding this wrong. So you're saying the question is, how do you know with your significant other? I'm assuming the person you're living with, married with, is disrespecting you, but that person, she doesn't know or he doesn't know that they're displaying a level of disrespect towards you. Is that the question? You're muted. You're muted.
The question is, how do you recognize when respect is lacking? So, and then coach's question was pretty much I answered it, but I don't remember it. But pretty much, are we talking about it being intentional, or are we pretty much talking about it just because the intent behind it? Is it intentional disrespect, or is it because they're not knowing that they're being disrespectful?
Well, let's just say you're having a conversation with somebody, right? And you're having a serious conversation with somebody, but their back is turned and they're not looking at you in the eye while this conversation is happening. And you're asking them direct questions and they're not turning around or acknowledging your presence, but they're answering you with their back turned. That would be a level of disrespect. That person would know that, right? Like, is that what I'm understanding? Like that?
Yes, that is an example. The other side of that is this: the intent behind that. Did that woman turn her back on you to be disrespectful, or did that woman, is that her behavior and that's always how she has been behaving, and to her it's not disrespectful, it's just how she handles her anger, you know
Well,
what I
then I would
mean?
refer back to what Chris said, because I would say we have that conversation, and by then I'm hoping I know her mannerisms and how she conducts herself. So I would
Mm.
conduct myself within that parameter, right? Until she hits below the belt, then I'm like, okay, let me check her, right? Because you got to put her in place. So that's how I would. I would refer back to Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, because if she's doing something, and just because I'm talking to her, I'm a controlling MF. If I say no, you got to turn around and look at me and listen to me, this, that, and other when I'm talking to you. Now I'm putting her in the child's place. That's not my spouse. That's not my better half. That's my doggone child. I'm being controlling. But if we're talking, I say, babe, I'm trying to have a serious conversation. Can you look at me while we talk?
Right.
I mean this. Not you disrespect me because you were talking to me with your back turned. That's
Yeah.
a controlling something, and I'm trying to keep it here.
Right. That's how I would see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Chris, you look angry, guy.
Oh, no, I'm chilling. I'm chilling. I promise you, I'm chilling. I promise you.
How do we recognize it? So pretty much, how do we recognize
Body
disrespect?
language is
Oh,
is
Body
yeah.
language.
There you
yeah,
go.
like
That's a
you
perfect
can.
understanding.
I mean, it's like very acute anger moments, microaggressions, being short in general, like with people and words, and using very sharp words. Being very passive aggressive is usually how it starts. Or one of the things that you can use to indicate. It just depends on the person too.
I
And no,
think those are just.
I'm only speaking from what I've seen. What I've been responsible for. So that's
I
just
didn't
my
like that when I was in the military. They used to say, because if you say dumb stuff, my face gonna tell you saying stuff that I think is dumb.
yeah.
And so, oh, you being disrespectful. No, I'm showing emotion towards what you're saying, and I think that's dumb. It's not disrespect. I think that's emotional. That's not to me. Disrespect is like what Chris said, what Coach said, what I said before. When you cross a boundary that was already established, that's disrespect. But if
Yeah.
I'm just reacting to what you said, reacting to what you've done,
But
because I
what if I
feel a
said?
certain
But
way,
what if I set a boundary for body language?
you can't control me. That you can't set a boundary
I
like
didn't,
that.
I'm just speaking in general. We said once we
Right, but
communicated what a boundary is, right? And if somebody violates that, then you got a right to speak up about it, no matter how specific your requirement is. Like
I'll
some
go
things.
back to what you said about that. That's feminine. Is you feel a certain way about because somebody huffing and puffing because you disrespect. I hurt your feelings. That's what I did.
I wouldn't say like body language hurts anybody's feelings. I'm just saying it puts people in a defensive spot, and then you can't really have the conversation you want to
But
have.
it's not
That's
disrespect.
that's that's what I'm saying. Is like it's disrespectful to the relationship because like you can't act the way that the other person acts and expect to have a solid conversation. That's my point. If
Okay,
you sit, if you can't behave like your lady and then expect to have a consistent conversation. If
agree.
you mimicked her behavior, would it be mocking or would it be disrespectful?
Oh,
And
I,
mocking is generally disrespectful, right? So you can't switch places. If you wouldn't accept it, then you shouldn't express it the same way, correct? So this is why I say body language is also it can be taken as disrespect if you know you deliberately doing something to
can
agitate
yeah.
the other person. So like that's what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about somebody hearing me say something or hearing you say something and then taking the words the wrong way. How are you directing and communicating your body language?
So are you
That
going back to intent? Oh shoot.
the intent and you expressing yourself in a certain way because there's a time and place for everything, right? Because being up here that use profanity, you're not going to use profanity in front of your mom unless your relationship has that, you know what I'm saying, that you know what I'm saying, that option. You wouldn't go to work speaking the same way that you would in a, you know what I'm saying, in a barbershop because you respect the place that you're in, right? Respect determines it, I mean, it's kind of identified or dignified by your behavior. If you don't respect yourself, you usually act in a nut. You know what I'm saying? You keep your cool because you respect yourself, correct? That's how you know the power of your body language because no matter how bad you want to act on whatever dumbness it is, there's a time and place for how you express yourself because it can be taken a completely different way. People get shot off bad body language. Understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like the wrong flinch get people beat up and you get people hurt in the wrong situation. You know what I'm saying? So body language is very important.
I think we're going
This is
to
why I
extremes.
started off by This is why I started off by saying it's not just denotation, it is also connotation, right? It's not just the words in the definition, it is the understanding of it. I think it was Antoine who mentioned how I feel about a thing, right? I don't disagree with what he said because how I feel about a thing helps me to understand whenever the energy coming from the person I'm dealing with is off. Once I can sense that, then that helps me to recognize that. For me, I have a philosophy. I need to see a thing 3 times before I bring it to the other person's attention because I need to understand whether it was a mistake or whether it's behavioral pattern. Once I identify it to be a behavioral pattern, then like Chris said, it's time for us to have a conversation. So I'm not disagreeing with the body language. I'm not whatever. I think when it comes down to it, I think from person to person, their interpretation of the definition defines what it looks like in their life. That's the point I was making in the beginning. And simply because of that, it becomes fluid. And that's where you start looking at cultural and all this other stuff. Certain culture have certain aspects of respect. I think we talked about this previously. You go to Korea, you get on the bullet train, you sitting down. Ajima gets on that bullet train, she's going to come stand directly in front of you. In America, that is disrespect. In Korea,
Personal.
get your butt up because that right. That is what is supposed to happen. That's why I said what I said. So when it comes down to it, the way that you recognize it is by sensing it. You
Yes.
sense disrespect because it is off center of what the discussion and the parameters of the relationship that we established.
It's like some parts of the world you can't show the person sitting next to you the bottom of your foot. You don't mean anything by it, but you don't know it's disrespectful to the person next to you. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Left hand.
yeah, your left hand. You know what I'm saying? Because that's in some parts of the world, that's what you wipe your ass with. But
Yeah.
if you walk up and they don't know that, or you don't know that, you could be in a different situation very quickly. Like for instance, it's Ramadan right now, right? In places like Dubai, you can still buy food in the daytime, but you can't sit down in the food court and eat. But if you go sit down in the food court and eat, you could easily be arrested. You don't even know you're being disrespectful because you don't know the law of the land. You don't know the culture of the land. And that's how we have to treat each other. Treat the other person like you don't know their language and ask them to teach you, because you don't want to mess around and put somebody in a situation where your definition of respect and theirs isn't compatible. And now you got a whole different situation for no reason.
Yeah, I think everybody made some solid points. I think, like Antoine said, there is a definite definition of what respect is. Like Roland said, I think that there are different aspects of even the same definition. Into what Coach and everybody else said too. I think it is not that it's subjective, but it's different for every different relationship. For some people, what's allowed is okay and it's not disrespectful. And for what other people's it is disrespectful. I remember sometime last year we did a show and we was talking about social media and what information our women with what we feel comfortable with them posting on social media, and we had different point of views on that. So I think this is the same thing when it comes to respect, disrespect, or lack of respect. I think is different per each individual couple, but I do think that there are some generalities that just come along with it, just like with us, you know, just you know, just basic conversation skills, effective communication skills is what we like to display up here so we can, get the conversation going and we can understand and go back and forth and move along with the conversation. So like I said, I think what everybody said was pretty accurate and spot on.
But
Anybody
like
else
like
want to?
I'm gonna agree with like Vic. Like Vic said, the body language, right? So if I have the body language, right, I move differently as a single man now, right? I move differently. I conduct myself differently. I speak differently. If I'm in a relationship with a woman, automatically across the board, most men would generally walk and talk differently if they have a significant other. They're not going to move in the same swag. They're not going to say the same things to women and women they don't know, women they come across, because they're going to conduct themselves like, hey, you know what? I'm respecting the ring I have on if they're married, but I'm going to respect the relationship I'm in. There's certain numbers you can't put in your phone, and there's certain places you can't really go as a man in a really, I'm talking in a committed relationship compared to a man that's not. And I'm not talking a situationship. I'm talking about in a solid, committed two people relationship. They may not even be living together, but you will conduct yourself like, you know what? I'm interested in this girl. I don't want to mess it up. So I can't move that way anymore. So you'd move differently out of respect. Nobody's putting a chain around your neck, but out of respect, you would move differently. At least I hope she would, right? Because I've lost relationships out of respect, right? Because unlike you guys, I don't have that 3 rule when it comes to my red light and I'm drawing. If you can't respect that, and I have to keep schooling you on that, it's best you don't come into my place, right? Because I have that understanding. And I have the understanding if a woman would say the same thing. So I agree with Vic on that movement and body language and stuff.
I like it. Go ahead, Vic. You had something?
I think when you start just breaking down everybody's individual experience with the people that they come in contact with, uh, you start looking at behavior, and behavior determines, who you kick it with, what your network looks like, because we don't kick it with people that act a certain type of way, right? I think when you start looking at behavior, activity, and you start thinking about which disciplines that people have that keep them straight, what their degree of accountability is, I think that people that move with a level of personal discipline just move completely different with respect as those that just don't. Like when you can look at somebody's exterior, if they weigh, if they're visibly obese, you already know what kind of assessments you can make about their personal discipline, right? Like they have a compulsive eating disorder, probably, or something like that, or whatever, or barring any health conditions. But generally speaking, you can make some decent assessments just based on the exterior of folks. So that's why we can't overlook body language. You know what I'm saying? Because it shows, like what you said before, you got to respect yourself first, right? So if you're not keeping yourself in good health, you have a varied degree of self-respect. Whether that's what the outcomes say. You got to look at what people are at face value, and then leave room to have your opinion changed about them, because you can't do that without having a baseline level of just general respect.
Speaking of respect, can a relationship survive without respect?
No, there is no relationship. I mean, it depends on what kind of relationship you want it to be. Not
Ro-
romantic.
Romantic
You
relationship, can a romantic relationship survive without respect?
Why would you get into one without
look up Blueface and Krishan. That's all I'm gonna say.
Blueface? I never even heard of that. Why would you get into a relationship without respect, Garfield? Honestly, like you it's like what? Like why would you do that? Why would you torture?
Don't answer my question with a question. I'm
Yeah.
asking you.
I just never.
I want you to answer.
This is
My
the thing, though,
answer
and this is
may,
what the
may
whole
not be your answer.
this is what the whole conversation is about. It's not that people go in looking to be disrespected. People just have varying degrees of self-respect, and they're either compatible with people or they're not. And then you don't figure that out until you start interacting with each other and spending time with each other. And then when they violate something, they do something that you ain't never seen before. You didn't grow up with that particular individual. You didn't grow up with them in a household or experience their culture. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to have some habits that come from their own personal experience that may not mix very well with yours. And then that now they're doing something completely natural, and you don't know that you're being disrespected, or they're doing something that you didn't think much of, and then it trickled down into where it violated your boundaries, and now it's disrespectful. Now you got to do something with it, but you've allowed it, but you didn't know that you was being disrespected. Ergo, the whole point of the conversation.
So, can a relationship survive without respect?
Yes.
Short answer. Really? It can? Okay, I need
Yeah.
you to explain this.
Yep,
Can't
absolutely.
thrive.
Yeah.
I can't
I've been
thrive
talking-
in this. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I've
No,
been
go ahead.
talking about it all night. Listen, again, what's disrespectful to me may not be disrespectful to you. So when I am looking at it, we could be friends, and you're bringing something to my perspective because you want to have a conversation, and I'm listening to the conversation. I'm listening to what you're telling me, and in my mind, I'm like, there's no way in the world I can live under those parameters. But that's what they have created for themselves. That's why I say that. So you can't take it as one blanket statement. It looks different from person to person. So the answer is yes, because every relationship is not the same.
And that's
I
why
will-
when people say, I wouldn't take that, I say, you don't have to. It ain't your relationship.
Right.
Even still, oh, Antoine, you muted, but let me say this.
That's
I
very
still
level.
say yes. Yes, and here's why, a different way. Based off of what Chris said earlier, I'm going to go back to your argument. If something happened and you are being disrespected in the relationship, you have a conversation, right? It gets fixed. You were disrespected. 6 months down the road, you get disrespected again. You have the conversation, goes away, it fixes the problem. So I think in a relationship, you are going to be disrespected from time to time, but I think it's going to be different. I don't think that consistent disrespect is going to land you a successful long-term relationship. But I do think that from time to time, disrespect is going to show up in a relationship. You have the conversation, you get it fixed, and then you move on. It's not going to always be on, sometimes it may be intentional, and sometimes it may be not intentional. I think as you grow and if you pick the right person, I think the amount of those times that are intentional will be very few. I think in most cases there'll be unintentional. But that's just my perspective.
No, I agree with you on that because, like I said, all I'm saying is that if these two people have respect that I don't consider respect, I would say that's the level of respect they have for each other at that level. That's their version of respect. Like if my friend, I think he has no respect for his girlfriend because when I come into the car, she already getting up and going in the back seat, and I'm like, dude, no, man, that's your woman. I'm good in the back, right? But he's like, nah, she's used to it. Don't worry about it. She's all good. We walk into the restaurant, she's behind him. She even opened the door for him. I'm like, dude, I just can't operate like that. I mean, it's no, right? So that's their level of respect. I have to respect what they got going on. I can't keep hitting him with, dude, really? You could just like let her open her own door and let her put me in the front seat like that. And hey, that's their level of respect they have for one another.
What you got, Chris?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Nothing.
It opened. It makes sense. Can a relationship survive without respect? Knowing that there are going to be times where you're disrespected without knowing that they know that you're being disrespected. So you got to have the conversation. I never looked at it like that. So I got nothing. I just learned something tonight.
Yeah, the disrespect is built in. That's why you got to have a conversation. Like it occurs, so it triggers a need for a conversation, which is about not knowing your person's triggers. You don't know what the other person is triggered by until it happens. Like you don't know how something works until you have to fix it. You just assume that it works for you, and then when something happens, you have to document it. So and do a little bit of research, like Coach was saying. Hey, if we got 3 occurrences, now we got a pattern. We got something to discuss, and you may be completely unaware of it. And you can't address it right then and there in most cases. You have to actually understand what the other person is doing that's making you feel some type of way.
Right.
And you have to put it in a way where you can actually dissect it. Because if you just jump right out on somebody when it happens, and you're like, all right, I got you. Then now you're already on the defensive. You can't have anything about it. The person feels like they get in a deposition. It's an ambush. That right there is a feminine behavior of a man. You know what I'm saying? In general, on the way I look at it. So I wouldn't disrespect myself by acting like the person that's giving me the energy that's making me even respond. Because at that point, now we having a debate. Now we having, like a Royal Rumble and playing semantics instead of having a true dialogue. If you genuinely believe that person wants to or would be willing to correct their behavior, be real about how it was brought to you. Sit down with yourself, and even I write about it if I had to, you know what I'm saying, to make it make sense, and use my best tool for communicating the understanding to myself first, and then say, hey, this is what it feels like. This may not be what you're doing, but I want to get a better understanding of my feelings, because you might not even solve the problem on the first conversation. It may take 2 or 3 of them. Who knows what it is. It depends on the topic and it depends on the understanding. And a lack of objectivity is what's killing people trying to understand what disrespect is to the other person. You gotta look at it as though you can't benefit from it. It's for the other person's benefit. So even when you're not sure about the weight of the conversation, you have to approach it as though they want to get the understanding, so not to put you over there in that situation again.
And I know people who have been together 40 years in what I would consider a dysfunctional, disrespectful relationship. but it works for them because that's where their mindset is. And I know what I wouldn't accept, and whoever I'm involved with will know what I would and wouldn't accept. So going forward, we won't have those problems. We'll just have conversations about how to get better and move forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's very self. I mean, it's so. I mean, respect is so easy. I can't. It's not even a complicated thing. You know, I don't even believe respect is earned. I just give it. I give it until you give me a reason not to. That's it. I mean, I conduct myself properly. I ask my friend, "What would you call your mother? Do you want me to call her Mrs.? How do you guys call her? Auntie?" Like, I mean, what? There's. I mean, you'd ask questions.
I think there's a difference between courtesy and respect, though, because you can be cordial and you can be courteous and do enough to just that's tact. How you deal with people that you probably don't like but have to anyway, and then you interact with them as needed. You don't disrespect yourself. You don't disrespect the space that you're in. So, but it's easy to speak to people. That's not necessarily respect. They just call.
So you speak to them in a respectful manner.
That's just general courtesy. When we talk about respect, we're talking about knowing your mate's triggers, knowing their business, and then doing things to protect them from the things that they've, trusted you with. This is about not violating other people in an emotional way mentally, not trying their intelligence. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about just being disrespectful because you didn't say excuse me before you walk past somebody, or you know what I'm saying, or we're talking about being destructive to somebody else, in a mental way. But disrespect goes much deeper than just we disagree about a color or something.
No, but that's like I said, but that's going into the relationship you have. You would have these discussions because you would learn each other's mannerisms and how to conduct around each other's. You would learn how to conduct yourself around each other's space and how you would communicate. When you're fighting with a certain person, your significant other, if you say something that's below the belt, like you really didn't need to say it, that's
That's not always true because no, it's not always true because some people deal with conflict way differently, Antoine. Some
you don't know what to hit the jugular vein.
Some people believe they got to hit below the belt. I'm trying to
tell
you.
Some people believe hitting below the belt and shutting them up is their way of winning.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's not even looked at as disrespect anymore. It's something that Vic always says. It's an unhealthy competition.
That's it.
Well, look at it like this, and what are some common challenges to respecting your partner? What are some of the challenges that you face when you're trying to respect your partner? And it sounds like just right there is being able to maintain and control your tongue or control your emotions.
I mean, easy one.
I mean, you already kind of answered with that one right there. Antoine, what you got?
Or anybody.
Well, I think what y'all were just talking about wasn't disrespect. I think that would be disrespect. If you hit me below the belt with something, that's not friendly banter and you just went too far. You just disrespected me. If my wife knows something, because when you jab to hurt, to inflict pain, to do damage, it's disrespect.
Intent.
You done went over the boundary.
So like
we know that.
We know that, but like
some people don't.
Some people don't. Like for instance,
that's why they do.
Like some of those people that love to like you said before, you like the joke, right? Some people like the joke so they can do a well-dressed insult and then pretend they was just joking because they joke all the time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So because you do it all the time, it becomes disingenuous if you do it to actually hurt somebody else's feelings in a slick type of way. People call that shade. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's about the intent. There's a difference if you just joking and it's like maybe sports related content or something like that. But when you start getting into personal details, that's one thing. But if I say something that triggers you that I had no knowledge about, I don't know what you did last summer. You can't say I was disrespectful because I didn't know.
Coach, what you got?
Understanding what respect looks like to your partner. Notice my narrative ain't changing.
Yep.
I don't know.
Because it's about the other person. It's about the relationship.
Finally, somebody said it.
If it's about the relationship, you need to find out how that other person relates to your behavior if you believe in the relationship. And that means you have to adjust your perspective. This is the difference between being subjective and objective. See, if you say something and you don't have any type of relationship with that person and you feel some kind of way, that's a subjective moment. That person don't know your history, but you might feel some kind of way because of your personal experience and the words that's being used. So, but if you sit back and look at it objectively, meaning take you out of it and observe it, like you're looking at a snow globe, and say, you didn't know that you affected the other person that way. You didn't know that they would respond to what you said. And in most cases, we say too much for too long, or we don't speak up soon enough about something, and then the other person feels disrespected either by the lack of acknowledgement, the words chosen. It's just never going to be perfect, of course, right? But in the situation where you had working information, they call that gaslighting, maybe, you know what I'm saying, or you're just doing something that's just generally disingenuous. It's all about the intent and what you say, and what you do. And are you blowing people off? Are you being dismissive? You know what I'm saying? Are you trying to take somebody else's reality from them and then making it about you? Stuff like that is disrespectful to the other person too.
So what are I want to continue and get back to the question. What are some of the common challenges to respecting your partner?
Objectivity.
Not knowing your partner. Some people aren't
Ignorance.
necessarily verbal with or communicating what they deem as disrespect, so you may not know.
What do you mean, coach? Not viewing your partner as the adversary.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues that exists, man. When people get in their feelings, it becomes. I think somebody was talking about it earlier, right? It becomes like a one-up thing. If you say something, your other partner feel like they got to say something just to win that version of the battle. Round two, now they say something, and now you say something, and now they feel like they got to say something just to win that version of the battle. Round three, so it becomes literally the argument itself becomes a self-licking ice cream cone. So that's when the actual disrespect become repetitive in nature and just keep feeding into each other.
Yeah, I wouldn't even let go. I wouldn't even let go that far. Yeesh. That's too much a headache.
What you mean, Antoine?
I just don't see this whole back and forth shit from me. Like I'm so direct. It's like an idiot wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't go back and forth like this. I know when you're disrespecting me. I'm gonna tell you right then and there. I'm gonna know when I'm disrespecting you. If I'm really with you and I'm living with you, I'm gonna know how to watch my tongue, watch my words. If I'm out with you walking in public, I'm gonna know how to conduct myself around you. I think it's very simple. Now, can you make a mistake? Obviously. Can you take what you said the wrong way? Obviously. But the initial respect for the person you're with is not complicated.
Antoine, I don't want to
I mean,
I understand. But here's why I want to question. If it's so simple, then why is the world running rampant with disrespect? Why are marriages, 50%? You know what I mean? I don't know the exact number, but I always hear
right.
50%. So if disrespect is so simple, why do we have so much disrespect in relationships if it's so simple?
Because people's egos get in the way. You can't admit when you're wrong, and you can't walk away when you're wrong. You can't just shut up and listen. Move your ego out of the way, assess what she is saying or he is saying, put it aside, listen, and really rationalize it to yourself and see if you're wrong. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. It's okay. It's like if you're lost, it's okay to tell your wife, I'm lost. I can't drive. You know what I mean? Like that old saying. Like it's not that hard, man.
I think
I'm just like, sorry, go ahead, bro.
I think I would say we have lofty expectations from TV and all this other stuff, and we don't know how to communicate. We expect our partners to communicate like us, and they expect us to communicate like them, and we never find a common thread where we can come together and say, this is what works for us and our relationship. And we put ourselves in the relationship, in the box of the relationship, and work there.
So here's what I was thinking the other day. I was talking to my wife, and I was like, you know what? Regardless of what we think about relationships, there are some people out there, and we're like, how in the world did they get married? Right? Who decided to marry them? And that goes back to what they say is, I guess there is someone for everybody. I can only imagine what it may be like to be married to Trump. That's just, it is what it is. There are probably some other people out there that I can start naming, going down the list. I was like, how in the world? And there are some people that probably be like, how in the world did she marry me? And vice versa. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? We are going to be who we're going to be. And I think the more limitations that we put on our partner, I think it makes it harder for us to find that person. But I do think that, nothing wrong with everybody wanting what they want and accepting what they accept. So um hey, it is what it is.
I
Hey,
think
thanks to everybody who's in the chat. Everybody watching at home, everybody watching on the other different platforms like that. I really appreciate it. Appreciate everybody who hit the like button, shared it, and all of those different things like this. We are live every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And moving right along with the conversation, man. We all at some point maybe collectively agreed that in a relationship there may be some disrespect. And I think some of us agreed that the disrespect is something that comes with the relationship. And I think one of the things that we talked about was the intent behind it. So, what happens, or what are some of the strategies going forward once to start repairing the disrespect or that may have been lost in a relationship? You know what I mean? So, how do you repair a relationship that has lost respect? And I know who said Chris. Ooh, here we go, Chris.
No, I'm saying he answered it already.
Oh, he answered it. Okay.
Yeah.
Have the conversation.
Yep. Why that's hard?
It's very simple.
Thank you.
It is. It's very simple. And I'm gonna put this out there, fellas. It doesn't make you soft to talk. You need to talk. You just can't talk like them. You got to talk like you.
Say
You
that
So
can't beat
again.
around.
when
And
do
listen, and I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm not sugarcoating nothing. I'm going to tell you how it is. I may preface it by saying that I'm not attacking you as a person, but this is going to be what it is. You understand what I'm saying? Like I really didn't. I really don't like that you're doing this. So if you and I are going to continue this, and you're going to have to cut this out. You understand what I'm saying? It's not controlling to have standards and boundaries. Like I said earlier, you can't act independently in a union because you represent the other person. It's not about you. It's not about her. It's about y'all. And that's how it's supposed to be. Have the conversation. Hey, chill out. Because what you're doing right now is it's not only is it disrespectful, it's kind of showing that you kind of intentionally want to hurt me because we had this conversation before and you still doing this. So what's up? Are we going to keep down this road or are we going to try to fix this? Because if you're going to continue this behavior, you can continue it out there away from me because you can't be like this and be with me at the same time. You understand what I'm saying? It's not controlling to have boundaries like that because you're not going to be out here trying to make her look bad. And it's like I said earlier, it isn't her job to make you miserable.
I like it? I had a talking point, but then I forgot it. Chris was on one. Oh yeah, here it was. One of the things that you mentioned, and Coach, agreed with you in having the conversation. What I want to understand is when to have the conversation. You know, Chris, you spoke about, something happens and then you have the conversation. Coach talked about, I'm give it like a three hit rule. You know what I mean? After the third time, he know that, this is a pattern, the intent behind why it's keep going on. So now that both people have two different opinions or different ways of doing it, what I mean, I just want to know, what do you guys think the other three people on here, or even Coach or Chris again, what do you guys think is an appropriate time to address something when the disrespect has happened?
When it happens.
You address it when it happens, unless it's in a public place where you embarrass the both of you.
That's if you raise your voice, right?
Period. Like,
All
hey,
right.
after we leave, we got to
What I
talk.
just say?
But let's just continue the rest of this evening. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not about to ruin somebody else's good time just because she did something crazy and I caught it. I'm not about to do that because it ain't about me. It's
Just pull
not
them to the
about
side.
me. You understand what I'm saying? So I would rather say, I would rather just continue the rest of the evening. Hey, let's have a chit chat. And then we
Yes.
talk amongst ourselves. Because one, it's between us. And two, don't nobody out there need to know our business like that. You understand what I'm saying? Don't nobody need to see our union being represented like this. So let's talk over here. And then we can straighten this shit out. And then we can go on about our business. I'm not one for embarrassing the union.
Anything I
No,
gotta
talk.
alter my facial expression, I'm not dealing with it right then and there at all. I'm not fixing to do anything that draws unnecessary attention to myself.
Nah, I'm pulling you to the side. Mm-mm. You're gonna know right then and there, so you'll never do it again that night. Mm-mm. I'll make sure I'm not. I'll make sure it's not noticeable, but you're gonna know. If you go up twerking on some stupid thing, or you act idiot, you act out of place, or you say something disrespectful in front of my friends, oh, I'm gonna wait till you're finished the sentence. But I can tell you this: when we sit back down at that seat, I'm gonna look at you and go, we don't do that. Like what? Right? And if I know I'm not enjoying myself for the rest of the evening because how you conducted yourself, I have no problem getting up and taking you with me to leave, and I'm telling you why, and explaining to you in the car. I wouldn't stay there and put on a stupid smiley face like, what? That's the problem. That's the problem. People can't be direct and just be honest. They have to sugarcoat it and make it what it isn't. At least that's how I see it. Because I'm going to make sure, I would want you to tell me if, whoa, baby, that ain't happening. Like, no. But you can pull me to the side and tell me. But
I'm with
I'm not going to fake it for the rest of the night.
I'm with you, Antoine. I think we all have been in situations where, whether it's with your spouse, your kids, or them to you, where your other person, where you were going a little too far, and they gave you that little look, and it let you know, like, hey, you done stepped a little too far. Because I know I got a look that'll let you know, hey, you might want to pump your brakes.
But see,
'Cause-
that's different because she understands your mannerisms. She's like,
Right.
hey, okay, that's the look. Let me chill out. And then when you get in the car or when you get away from people, hey, this is what's up. That's what I meant by not
Bingo, put a pin in it.
right. That's what I mean by not embarrassing the union. I don't mean I'm not gonna take care of it. I mean, I'm not gonna, all right, I'm gonna give you a look, or I might just say, hey man, chill out. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? I might do something like that, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna scold you in front of everybody like you're my
Oh, no,
kid.
you do
I'm
that.
not gonna do that. No. Hey, chill out. We'll talk about this later. Chill out real quick. Let's just have a good time. But if you're not trying to have a good time, we can leave. That's
Mhm.
what it would be. But I wouldn't go rah rah. You did this in front of everybody. Rah rah. I wouldn't do that because that's not everybody business. You understand what I'm saying? That's not everybody business.
Coach.
So let me kind of preference my three observation rule. The extreme forms of disrespect, I wouldn't be involved with anybody like that. For me, I'm a very conscious observer of character. So when a person displays something of that nature, that kind of eliminates the concept of any further relationship that can ever exist. So when we're talking about these strategies of repairing relationships, I agree wholeheartedly with Chris and what everybody else said, right? We talk about those things. When I'm talking about disrespects, I'm talking about those things that the person may not necessarily be aware of, the thing that they may have done just simply by the factor of a human nature factor, accidentally, or whatever the case may be. Um, And then, maybe maybe the first time I may say something not in a direct fashion, like, "Did you really mean to do that?" Just kind of make that person aware, because sometimes that's really all a person needs, a person that has the character that you would be looking for. So you just don't get involved with any and everybody. And because you don't get involved with any and everybody, you're not going to be involved with a person that actually yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs out in public. That's why I get left out there by yourself and trying to find a way home. So, when it comes down to those things, that's my point behind the three observation rule. When I'm talking about little bouts of disrespect, it's not something so egregious to the point where it gets me all up in arms. It's like simple stuff like passive aggressive conversation, right? That can be deemed as disrespectful. But did they intentionally do it? Was it something, you see what I'm saying? So it's just those things. And so, with that being said, that's my whole point behind the three observation rule. But then at the end of the third point, at the end of the third observation, we will sit down and have a honest, upfront conversation. And then, of course, that conversation may result in us understanding better ways to do it in the future to move forward.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Chris, what you got?
No, I was gonna say yes, we have the discussion, but if you're in a relationship and you're actually dealing with somebody that you care about, you have to have the conversation in a fashion that doesn't look like you're attacking her. You understand what I'm saying? Like she's a bad person. You have to just explain the behavior and just say, "Hey, man, I still like you. Don't sweat it. You just did this, and I need you to chill out doing this. Can you do that for me?" You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be like I said, man. You're not scolding a kid. You're talking to another adult that you care about. You know what I'm saying? That you're sharing relations with. You understand what I'm saying? Like you can't be like that with somebody that you care about. I don't think you can do it. You're muted, Unc.
Ah, did it a couple times. Antoine, you got anything else to say on this little piece of it?
That's how I would handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just I no I don't, I'm not one to prolong things and go to bed angry and all that crap till the next morning when I'm feeling better and I had my coffee. No, I'm gonna address it right then and there. Just let you know that I didn't like what you said. And then then after that you're gonna know.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And they pull it to the side. Well, but I'm not gonna spend the rest of my night upset at an event when I'm upset. Like I don't see the point. We're leaving. I'm not gonna fake it. I'm not gonna fake it till you make it, and I'll do all that smiley stuff. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oof. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that everybody had great talking points on this part of it. I think that there are times where you have to address it. Then you know what I mean. You can't wait. You know what I mean later on because it could potentially happen again the same night, especially if you're out somewhere and you're in public. So I think sometimes pulling her off to the side and addressing it and having a conversation. How you talk to your woman is already predetermined based off of what has already been set and agreed upon in the relationship. So if you are the type of person to where you can pull your woman off and you can yell and say blah blah blah, well, if she's with you and she agreed to be talked to like that, who am I to say that that's being disrespectful? You know what I mean? If you want to pull your lady off to the side and have a sweet conversation or pat her on the butt after you get done with it, and maybe she's more receptive like that, then you have to do what you have to do. I think the main thing is, well, one of the things is that you have to know your lady and you have to know um, the way that she receives the information from you. I think that's important. Antoine may be with a woman who wants and who accepts the directness, whereas someone else, their woman may not be as open to that, and they have to be direct, but they have to add some honey on top of it in order to get the message across to the person. Because I think at the end of the day, that's so important. It's important for us to be who we are, but it's also important to make sure that our message gets delivered to the person that we're trying to get our message across to, because ain't nothing worse in a relationship than is having ineffective communication, because it just creates a whole lot of other problems and disrespect and everything else. So um, but ladies and gentlemen, we're about to wrap up here shortly. I thank everybody for joining and being out here. Thank you for hitting the like button, the share button, all those good things like that. Thank you for everybody who's watching on all these different platforms. So appreciate everybody's support tonight. And we're going to start off with we're actually going to finish up with the final thoughts, and then we're going to start with Vic, and then we're just going to go in clockwise order.
This whole conversation about respect was about eliminating unhealthy competition. There's some key words that fit almost universally, and it may not apply the same way in all relationships, but ego management, self improvement, and those are two good ingredients to help you focus on yourself and what you feel like your value is. And once you understand the power of your own value, you should want to make sure that the other person feels protected as well, because you will want them to continue to work on themselves and be able to refine themselves with a renewed way of walking around in the world with a decent level of self-esteem, even though it's their personal uh, characteristic that they have to maintain. You have to do something to reinforce them too. So you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes, look at what behavior that you would accept, listen with um, a true empathetic ear to see how you can self-improve, because you can't see how you respond, but your mate is your reflection. So if you're getting back a lot of friction, it's coming from you, because if you lead the relationship as a man, that that relationship is going to be reflected in your mate potentially. And if it's not reflected properly, you got the wrong mirror.
Oh. Um, so I'm going to keep it simple. Respect is respect. Everybody was raised with morals and values. I'm assuming that. And if not, you'll learn it along the way. But the level of respect you conduct yourself is respect. It's not that complicated. And once you put your ego aside, respect becomes even more easier, because now you're listening to what the person has to say and why he or she disrespected you, and vice versa. And then if you're in a relationship with somebody, it boils down to communication. You have the conversation. You get to know the person you're with. You're gonna know what disrespect looks like to him. You're gonna know his mannerisms. You're gonna know what he doesn't like. Will you mess up? Obviously, nobody's perfect, right? But you're gonna have such how can I say it? A solid relationship and knowing one another that you're gonna respect certain boundaries. You're gonna respect the roles that you each play in the relationship. But when you start complicating it, putting big words into something that's so simple, now you're making the waters muddy. And I believe that if somebody disrespects you, you know what the right time is? The right time that they did it. Just be direct and tell them. Okay, because you can't make bad news sound pretty. It's still bad news. You can put all the honey you want on it. It's still bad news. So just be honest with the person. Let them know, set boundaries, because it's fair to set boundaries, and be open to that you could be wrong, and show them the level of respect you would want, and make it clear and understandable in throughout the relationship. It's nothing to fight about. Just keep it simple.
Respect in a relationship is given automatically, and it can be removed depending on breaking the trust and or boundaries agreed upon. Communicate to learn and not just to be heard. And as a relationship grows, so does the knowledge of respect and disrespect. Plain and simple.
So I think I'm repetitive all night. At the end of the day, words mean things, but in all that, get an understanding. So we need to not only understand what respect is, but what respect means to your partner. And then after you understand what respect means to your partner, you have to, like Roland said, grow in knowledge as you two grow together in the direction of what you plan for your futures to look like. So with that being said, what you realize is, In essence, success is a progressive realization of a worthy idea. So is respect within the confines of that relationship. Because as you grow, you must also continue to grow in understanding. Part of that understanding is respect. I think it's plain and simple. When it comes down to it, make sure that you're sense the environment so that you can understand when disrespect presents itself, and then communicate openly and honestly with with your partner. Avoid passive aggressive conversation. Be direct and be assertive. And I think that you can get down to the concept of having good, open, and honest respect in relationships.
Hmm. I guess I'll lead off by saying what I've been saying all night. It's all about having the conversation about what transpired, and communicating what respect looks like to you, and accepting what respect looks like from your partner. You have to have the conversation and always be honest about it. You don't have to, like we were saying before, you don't have to address it right then and there, but if it's hitting you in your gut and you can't shake the feeling, then it needs to be addressed. It's okay to talk to your partner. This is, like I said, man, just as long as you're not attacking her, and as long as you can come to a mutual understanding as to why it is like that. So that way it's not like you harping on her, you're explaining to her, okay, this is what I feel. Can we do something about this? That's really all it is, man. We just need to learn how to talk to each other and be honest. I think that's the most respectful thing you can do, is be honest and actually talk. So just talk, learn how to talk to each other. You'll be fine.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Gentlemen, I really appreciate everything that you had to say, all your experiences, all your perspective, every word or every syllable that came out of your mouth tonight. I really appreciate it. You know, a lot of good value has been added to the conversation, to the audience, and I think, you know, we all kind of sort of may have learned something or picked up something, or even maybe gotten a different perspective about something. Um, so again, thank you to everyone who has watched in at home. Thank you everyone who contributed a word or anything like that in the chat. I really appreciate it. Special shout out to Natasha. This is why we do it. You know, last week on Code Talk, I mean not Code Talk, but you can watch Code Talk over there too on Tuesday. Check out Vic, check out the link, check out the book, all those other things. But last Friday night on Empowering Perspective podcast, there was a similar conversation, a similar comment that was put up there like this at the end of the show. And same thing over here. This is why we do it. We're all up here trying to give conversations so that someone in the audience may benefit from it. So if you benefit from it, you like it, share it, pass it along, all those good things. Check out Code Talk. Check out everybody's platform. Check out Empower Perspective podcast here in 2 days. Check out Unleashing Empathetic Conversation Saturday night on Uncle Junior Network, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until next week, we will see you all, guys, and have a good week. We are out.